The flotilla is reported to have come under drone attack off the coast of Crete. The people on board posted this on social media. The global submerged flotilla said more than a dozen explosions were heard around the flotilla as it sailed off Greece late on Tuesday, with damage caused by unidentified objects dropped on deck.
Israeli drone strikes have been targeting flotillas carrying humanitarian aid for starving Palestinians trapped in Gaza. And things have gotten so dangerous for those seeking to help the victims of Israel's genocide that Italy has now sent a Navy vessel, while condemning the attacks somewhat. And I'll explain what I mean by somewhat in just a moment. Now, here is one of the people who is part of this mission, essentially sharing her experience as these attacks were underway.
We just heard another attack right now. We know of 5 vessels that have been attacked by a bomb. You can clearly hear it. And again, another bomb was released. We do not know which vessel it is at this very moment. Raise the alarm. We are in international waters carrying only humanitarian aid. We have no weapons. We pose no threat to anyone.
I want to reiterate what you just heard in that video. These are people trying to get humanitarian aid to people in Gaza, which has been leveled, a population of people who have been killed through aerial bombardments, who have been shot at as they seek humanitarian aid from 3 humanitarian aid hubs in the entirety of the Gaza Strip. These are people who have been brutalized for nearly 2 years straight. And there are luckily still some people in the international community. I mean, I can't unfortunately include our own pathetic government in this group, but there's luckily still people who are able to see the humanity of the Palestinian people in Gaza, and they are risking their lives to try to get them food and water. That is what they're doing. They are unarmed. They're not trying to go to war. They're approaching in peace. And Israel responds in the only way Israel knows how, through violence and intimidation. Imagine thinking you're the hero as you target unarmed people day in and day out for nearly 2 years straight. And I'm just talking about the current genocide. That's what Israel's legacy is now. It is unbelievable to me. So let's get to some more details as we know it. The global submerged flotilla is using an estimated 50 civilian boats in an attempt to break Israel's blockade of Gaza to try to get them humanitarian aid. Now, Reuters is reporting that Italy sent a Navy ship to the flotilla's assistance after the vessels were attacked by 12 drones in international waters 30 nautical miles off the Greek island of Gavdos. The drones came in the middle of the night, dropping stun grenades and itching powder, damaging the sails of some boats, according to 2 Italian members of the European Parliament aboard the flotilla. So you saw this example in the first video, and I want you to just see this again. And imagine meeting people or responding to people who are just trying to save other people's lives with this type of act, with this type of violence. Miraculously, no one has been wounded, no one has been physically harmed. At least that's what the reporting indicates right now, and I hope it remains that way. But clearly, at the very least, best case scenario, Israel is using intimidation tactics because, God forbid, anyone try to save the Palestinian people from the mass murder, mass slaughter that's being carried out by the Israeli Defense Forces at this very moment. Every day, an average of 80 people are killed in Gaza, many of whom happen to be women, children, elderly people. One of our viewers, Independent Outlaw, writes in and says, "Hi, Anna and Cenk. The Gaza flotillas were attacked because Israel fears further exposure of its war crimes. 145 countries recognize Palestine's historic rights Spain and Italy has now planned to deploy the Navy to protect the aid flotilla ships. Meanwhile, the United States continues to enable extremist Zionists who are openly rejecting a Palestinian state. And you're right about that. Now, I have to say, I wasn't fully satisfied with the response from Italy. I'm glad that they're sending a Navy vessel to ensure that people are okay. But the statements coming from Italy's leadership leave much to be desired. I will admit that. But first, here's another example of the type of intimidation that's being carried out, although I will admit this is a little bit hilarious. So Annalisa Corrado of the Democratic Party in Italy said this in a video. Onboard radio started playing very loud ABBA music. We thought it was a joke, but no, it was the first act of intimidation to tell us they were close enough to get into our radio systems. So I had the same reaction, right? Using the ABBA music to basically flex some muscle. But at the end of the day, the message that's being sent here is a very clear message. It is a message of intimidation, and it was followed with a drone attack that luckily didn't get anyone hurt. So the attack lasted around 3 hours. And again, I'm gonna note again that everyone seems okay. All passengers were safe after the drones exploded over the vessels. A Greek Coast Guard official told Reuters that members of the flotilla contacted them around 2 a.m. So that's at 2300 hours to inform them of the incident. When approached by the European Union's border agency Frontex, however, the flotilla said it did not require assistance, the official added. But this isn't the first time the flotilla has been targeted by Israel. So earlier this month, the flotilla blamed Israel for other drone strikes on its boats while they were moored in a Tunisian port. Israel, of course, I mean, they didn't respond to those accusations because who would hold them accountable if they don't? The United States? All the other countries that have decided to do the symbolic gesture of recognizing a Palestinian state, but still ship out weapons and weapon parts to Israel. Canada being one of those countries, by the way. Talk is real cheap. Symbolic gestures, people aren't falling for it anymore. We've been governed by symbolic gestures endlessly in the United States, at least. I'm not buying it. What are you gonna do outside of acknowledging that, Palestinians are humans who should have the right to self-determination? So let's get to Italy for a second. So in regard to the recent attacks, Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has urged the flotilla to essentially accept this plan, this offer, where they would hand over all of the humanitarian aid to the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem in Cyprus, Greece, and allow them to deliver the aid. She alleges that Israel is open to this plan. Now, I dug into this a little more, and what would happen is Greece would ship over the humanitarian aid to Israel, where it would then be destroyed. If not by the Israeli government, certainly by the Israeli settlers. And there's endless video of that online that you can check out for yourself. So excuse me if the flotilla is not interested in handing over the humanitarian aid so it could then be destroyed and not make its way to the Palestinian people. But Meloni is upset that people are trying to help those who are just being brutalized and starved to death. She says that the flotilla is gratuitous, dangerous, and irresponsible. What about the leveling of Gaza? What about the mass slaughter of innocent people in the Gaza Strip? We don't think that's gratuitous, dangerous, and irresponsible? I would argue that's the root of the problem. People who are trying to do something about it in lieu of an international community that gives a damn are not the problem here. The belligerent government with its belligerent military that is now guilty of endless atrocities against innocent people, I would argue they're the root of the problem. I would argue that they're the ones who are being irresponsible, dangerous, And the United States government and some of the citizens within this nation that continue to provide cover for it, they're genuinely the root of the problem. This is not good for the United States. The fact that we are supporting, this now multi-front war in the Middle East, or at least we're supporting the country carrying out a multi-front war in the Middle East, does not bode well for the United States. And it's my right as an American to make that clear, to air my grievances about what's going on here. This is crazy. It is isolating us in the worst possible ways from the international community. We have no leg to stand on when it comes to how other countries operate, whether or not they're valuing human rights. Who the hell are we to ever utter a single word or offer any judgment about how any other country is behaving as we aid and abet a literal modern day genocide that's playing out in real time and it's streamed online for all of us to see? This is not made up. We all see it. All these billionaires in the US working overtime to control every single media platform imaginable because maybe they can convince us to unsee everything that we've all seen for ourselves with our own two eyes over the last 2 years. It's not gonna work. Guido Crosetto, that is his name. He's Italy's defense minister. Was equally pathetic as he both condemned the attack but referred to the attacker as currently unidentified perpetrators. Why are you pretending like we don't know it's Israel? Like what, why? What's the point in that? I don't know if there's just this weird trend of international leaders having a humiliation fetish. But man, there's been one leader after another just raising their hand and offering themselves up for humiliation. You think we're stupid? It was Israel. And we know it's Israel. Israel has repeatedly criticized the flotilla, accusing its activists of complicity with the Hamas militant group. Right, okay, because if you wanna help literal children who are being starved to death, you obviously support terrorists. In a statement, the Global Samud Flotilla said the following: multiple drones, unidentified objects dropped, communications jammed, and explosions heard from a number of boats. We are witnessing these psychological operations firsthand right now, but we will not be intimidated. These are some of the bravest people on the planet. So the threats to either destroy your life if you speak out against Israel, or even threaten violence against you if you defend the Palestinian people and their right to be treated as human beings, their right at self-determination. That's real, that's real. And I know it's real because I have experienced it firsthand. It's come in many forms. It's come in the form of trying to intimidate me by trying to get family members fired from their jobs, which honestly, when people would claim that, before all of this happened, when people would claim that, I would kind of roll my eyes because it kind of played into what I thought was a trope. But when you are critical of a foreign government and you're met with the type of threats that I have been seeing lately, okay, well, I guess it wasn't made up. I guess you really do put yourself on the line if you're willing to be critical of Israel's conduct. I had intended to go to ArabCon this week, and I was looking forward to it. I was gonna be interviewed. I was looking forward to watching other speeches. But there have been so many specific threats of violence against me that I had to rethink whether or not it makes sense for me to go to that conference. And after thinking about it deeply, and after witnessing the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk while he was at an event, and also after taking stock of the security measures and whether or not the environment makes me feel safe enough, I decided it would be irresponsible for me to go. And I feel really torn up about that. Because not only was I looking forward to it, by not going, I feel like I'm letting the bad guys win. But what I also know is that it doesn't matter if you're an American, because if you do get hurt, if you do get killed, because of the fact that you're critical of our special ally, I don't trust our government to look out for you. The only thing I've seen our federal government do, and in some cases state and local government do, is engage in punishment of those, of Americans who have been critical of Israel. And if I can't rely on my own government to protect me, or at least punish the perpetrators who might cause harm to me as I'm at a conference, I just don't feel safe going. That's how bad things are at this point. So I want to apologize to all the attendees for ArabCon this year. I really wish I could go, but I just don't feel safe going, considering the specific threats. And I don't want to get into the specific threats. I've been getting them for a while, and they've gotten a lot more aggressive recently. So that's the reality of the situation. If you don't see how our unwavering support for Israel, how damaging it is to our country, I just don't know what it would take. I really don't know what it would take. Our freedom of expression is under threat as a result. We don't trust our government in many instances as a result. I don't feel safe in my own country as a result. How many American citizens have been killed by the IDF already? Latest story involved 4 American citizens in Lebanon who got killed in an Israeli airstrike, 5 people in total. 4 of them were American citizens, 3 of them were children, were kids. The president hasn't issued a single statement about it. Not one. You have American citizens who visited their family members in the West Bank and got killed by settlers, Israeli settlers, and the government does not care. Every paycheck, huge portion of my earnings goes to a federal government that I don't trust and I don't think would keep me safe.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.